Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today's Monday, January 8th, 2024, and I'm looking at the price of Bitcoin, and it, my friend, is soaring. We're close to $47,000 per coin. Even better, hash prices at around 10 cents. That is absolutely awesome for Stronghold Digital Mining because, after all, hash price is really what counts a lot for us, right? In terms of how much money we can make, basically mining Bitcoin. Now, the fact that Bitcoin itself is trading higher, that's really good news for sentiment, not just for the Bitcoin mining ecosystem as a whole, but also arguably for the fact that there could be potentially a spot Bitcoin ETF, right? The fact that the price of Bitcoin is going up seems to be suggesting that maybe a spot Bitcoin ETF is going to be approved by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission this coming Wednesday, January 10th. Bearing in mind that there's, I think, one company whose spot Bitcoin ETF application is essentially up for a decision, but the prevailing wisdom seems to be that, if the SEC is going to grant one company approval, odds are they'll grant approval to a number of different companies so that it doesn't appear as if though they're playing favorites as to which, spot Bitcoin ETF provider, right? They're sort of choosing to approve. If you approve a bunch of them, it doesn't look like you're picking one over the other. Now, as it relates to shares of Stronghold Digital Mining, it's still fairly, the trading day is not done yet. It's about 2:45 in the afternoon. I do see our stock is roughly at around $7 and maybe 70 cents a share, just under that $8 price point. Almost 2.3 million shares traded. That's some pretty heavy volume. So, we look at ultimately, and we've been through this rodeo so many times, right? I think ultimately at this point, what I'm going to feel the proudest about, what I'm going to be like the happiest about, is when I can look at you and say, you know what? Stronghold Digital Mining is a cash flow positive enterprise that not only mines Bitcoin, but also does some incredibly important environmental work. And that environmental work now extends beyond simply cleaning up mine waste, but also now extends to removing carbon from the atmosphere. But I think the key point in that type of statement is that we are a cash flow positive enterprise. Listen, I like science projects. I enjoy charity. I don't know that a science project mixed with charity works for a publicly traded company, right? And I'm not suggesting that anybody at Stronghold, sees the company as a science project or as a charity. I am merely pointing out, right, that I think all of us collectively as co-owners, as shareholders of the business, we ultimately, right, we cheer and are excited by all of the progress on the scientific front. And I know that we're really, some of us at least, are really excited about the environmental work, right? This, we're like liberating the earth of all of this mine waste. That's really important. And that's something that's near and dear to my heart, right? But we're not a charity, right? We need to pay our own way. For this enterprise to continue doing what it's doing, for the mission and purpose of this business to continue into the future, we need to generate positive cash flow. So it's great that we're cleaning mine waste. It's even better that we're mining Bitcoin. And it's totally like breathtaking that we're going to be capturing carbon from the atmosphere. But what we need to capture next is positive cash flow. And I believe that the revenue inputs that I'm seeing strongly suggest that absent some really big problems with regard to, wrangling our costs and maintaining our costs at a fairly low level, assuming we're able to do that, we contain our costs. Hey, these revenue inputs look really good. I think we may be potentially at the point where we are slowly but surely starting to turn the corner, going into this next potential bull run in the price of Bitcoin to see some sustainable positive cash flow, perhaps starting as early as Q1 2024. That's the quarter we're in right now. So that's a big deal. And I've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. All of us are looking for cash flow positive operations. That's arguably the one thing that's missing from this story. Now, to be fair, 2022, Stronghold Digital Mining for the entire year was cash flow positive, which was quite remarkable. 2023, we don't know yet. My operating assumption is that we were not cash flow positive for 2023 as a whole. Now we're getting into 2024. For this story to have room to maneuver, room to grow, right? For this company to have additional runway to do what it wants to do, we really do need to be cash flow positive. So I know that everybody at the company is focused on that. Certainly my saying it out loud like this, I think merely echoes a conversation that is going through a lot of people's minds, right? A lot of shareholders look at Stronghold and they're like, man, this company really does seem pretty amazing. Maybe there's some concern about being able to service the debt to some degree, but I think that the thing that everybody comes back to is, all right, when can we be cash flow positive on a sustainable basis as we go into this bull run? And I think we're pretty much there. I mean, absent some really big surprises that nobody's going to be, really happy about, I think we're kind of getting to that point right now during Q1 2024. The fact that we just put an order in and are probably receiving right now 5,000 more efficient Bitcoin mining machines, right? So we're going to have some of the latest equipment. We're also going to have some really good costs in terms of like energy costs. I think those two things put together are about as good as you can get in terms of setting a business up to potentially reap, dare I say, windfall profits during a Bitcoin bull run, which, if an ETF is approved, I think it could be game on. True story. There's at least 3, maybe 4 people that I know directly, maybe 5 actually, who have in so many words told me, I'm not comfortable buying Bitcoin in the way that you need to kind of buy Bitcoin today. And that includes going in through GBTC, all right? They're kind of looking for an ETF product. Now, you and I can look at each other and be like, it's not really that hard to have like a Bitcoin wallet and to buy Bitcoin, right? It's not that hard. You and I can maybe say that. But these individuals, they just want an ETF. If an ETF product were available, they would absolutely allocate some capital to that ETF to have exposure to Bitcoin. So while it's true, right, that I think you and I can say, hey, buying some Bitcoin, that's not that hard. Hell, I'll even show you how to do it, right? For us, it seems pretty straightforward. But I really do think that there is a universe, a fairly large universe of investors and just regular people out there who want exposure to Bitcoin that only a spot Bitcoin ETF here in the United States would allow them to do, so to speak, right? And again, you and I can go back and forth about whether or not that's actually true. Is that just an excuse? Like, hey, if anybody really wants Bitcoin, they can get Bitcoin. Yeah, I hear you. But I've heard and seen and just had interactions over the holiday season, let's phrase it that way, wherein I've come away with a perception. In a couple of instances, it was pretty straightforward, right? That, hey, if there's a spot Bitcoin ETF, yes, I'm going to buy some of that. So I don't know that one should necessarily assume that the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF is like a nothing burger. That like, it's no big deal, nothing's going to happen, because anybody and everybody who would have wanted exposure to Bitcoin would have figured out a way to get exposure to Bitcoin. That's one argument. I tend to disagree. I think this is a really big deal. Now, am I saying that $1 trillion are going to flow into Bitcoin ETFs overnight? No, of course not. But I do think this is going to be a pretty significant milestone insofar as people being able to just quickly and easily, you push a button, you get exposure to Bitcoin through an ETF product. Remember, ETFs are really, really popular, and some people are just really like all they invest in is ETFs. Like that's their thing. So, and that's, by the way, and that kind of goes to another point. Somebody did ask me, hey, do you think that a spot Bitcoin ETF means fewer people might want to invest in Stronghold Digital Mining. Listen, Stronghold is struggling to gain, some degree of exposure, right? We're sort of like still in obscurity, somebody who's somewhat skittish about buying Bitcoin directly through a Coinbase or some other mechanism, and who's not really that interested in individual stocks, their capital wasn't destined to flow to Stronghold, right? They're looking for an ETF product. So to me, the overlap is very, very minimal. I don't think that somebody who is currently in Stronghold Digital Mining is going to say, you know what, I've been waiting for this spot Bitcoin ETF. Now I'm just going to sell my shares of Stronghold and buy the ETF. Yeah, you may have some people who do that. I don't think it's going to be the majority. So no, I don't think that the approval of one or more US-based spot Bitcoin ETFs is going to really affect, the sort of the pool of capital that is attracted to Bitcoin mining companies. Because this is like very, very heavily leveraged, these are heavily levered plays on hash price from my perspective. So it's a little bit of a different approach. Anyway, with all of that said, stock's up today, so that's a good thing. Hash prices are doing really well. The price of Bitcoin is up today. I expect there to be quite a bit of volatility with the price of Bitcoin. These, generally speaking, are all really good things for Stronghold Digital Mining and arguably for the entire publicly traded Bitcoin mining ecosystem. Okay, my friend, until tomorrow, let's be positive, let's stay great and be great, and we'll see each other then.